Check, 1, 2.
One, two, three.
Welcome to Pièces de Résistance, a show about the geopolitical stakes of a world in turmoil. In early January, Pièces de Résistance predicted that 2026 would be the most consequential year in decades for the global order. As we close in on this second month of the year, our prediction still stands. And as events continue to unfold in dramatic ways, from the Western Hemisphere to Europe to the Middle East, and the news cycle scrambles to keep up, it is easy to lose sight of important matters near our shores and close to our hearts. So today, I've stepped out of the geopolitical bunker to step into the technological bunker, as I welcome a serial entrepreneur, a visionary tech leader, an Africa expert, and a former Prime Minister of the Republic of Haiti, Laurent Lamothe. Laurent, welcome to Pièces de Résistance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ted, for having me.
Thank you. I know you haven't given an interview in about 4 years, so we're truly honored that you would afford us this first in a long time. I want to talk a little bit about history before we move about to contemporary and future projections. Haiti's slave revolt and independence in 1804 from French colonial rule signaled the end of a world. In freeing itself from brutal oppression, Haiti became an example for many other nations from South America to Africa and even European nations like Greece pursuing self-determination. Yet most people know little about Haiti other than through distressing headlines. It feels today that we're also at the end of a world, and where the contemporary global system of governance is cracking and a new world has yet to emerge from the ashes of the old one. So why is Haiti's story so important to understand what is going on now? And can you speak a little to the country's universal contribution to humanity?
Well, that's an excellent question, Stan, and I'm so proud and happy to be on this show, on Pièces de Résistance. It's a great honor for me. Thank you for having me. Haiti has contributed greatly to the world. Haiti was the first Black nation in the world. We gained our independence when 500,000 slaves fought against 10,000 French army soldiers that were, occupying Haiti and imposing a very strict slavery system. And we rebelled against that. We fought against that. We broke the chains. We opened, freedom. We were the first country to bring freedom into likewise countries. So this was the example that was set, and this is where we started. Now, having said that, we paid a hefty price for that, and we started first. After the independence, the country was ostracized. The country was isolated for over 60 years. Then we had to pay for that independence. We had a price that's equivalent to over 20 billion US dollars. That was the price in a country that was fighting for freedom and to basically make ends meet. Over 95% of whatever income we had from at the time from coffee crops and the small agriculture that we were producing, because we were a very successful country, that was gone to repay the debt. And that lasted over 90 years. So we started off great, but then they put in the bricks very quickly into this, for this not to mushroom and for this not to spread around other Black nations. So that was our contribution to humanity, which was breaking the chains of slavery. And we Haitians are very proud of that till this day. But we have to be honest with ourselves. We paid a very hefty price until today. So Haiti, for many countries, was the example to follow. But for many big countries and big powers, we were the example to not follow. We were the example to avoid. And everything was put in place for this to be avoided at all costs.
Thank you for this lesson. What compelled you? I mean, you were prime minister for almost 3 years in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, 2010 earthquake, after a very successful entrepreneurial trajectory in the tech sector in Africa. We'll speak about Africa in a little bit, but I wanted to know what compelled you to leave a very financially rewarding career to dedicate yourself and serve your country.
Well, it happened. I was running a very successful business, as you said. We started a telecommunications company, a tech company, and essentially had the vocation of helping countries, helping governments throughout Africa to level up their technologies in order to compute, in order to understand what was going on in the telecom sector, because companies were coming in, billions of dollars of investments were being put, yet the regulators and the governments were lagging behind. So our job came in, and our job was to leapfrog the technology, install the right systems to allow them to collect their fair share of taxes, their fair share of revenues that would go to the government. And throughout the years, we raised over $6 billion. And we've been doing this, over 25 years. So it brought in $6 billion to governments. So the company was present in over 45 countries in Africa. So, we wanted to extend out, out of Africa into the Caribbean. And then we eventually managed to do that. We were in 4 Caribbean countries. So we were total 49 countries. And I was, the founder, the co-founder and CEO of the company for, up to the time from 1998 till 2010, when, I was sitting and I saw the earthquake of Haiti. I was, we were in a very good position financially going in. And then the earthquake happened. I was in Miami, with some friends, and we were watching the devastation of the earthquake. How shattered the country was, people crying. It was complete, Armageddon and disaster. So, at the time, I felt that I needed to do something to help, so we did a few fundraisers and everything, but, it didn't feel like, I was doing enough. So I decided, when Martelly decided to go for the election, I decided to support him, with everything that we had. So we helped him quite significantly be elected president. And, I wanted to help. I felt that I had, worked hard enough, built a strong company, and I felt that it was time to give back some of the knowledge that I learned and manage, the country, because, the prime minister is like the CEO of the country, and give back to be able to bring Haiti to another level.
You kind of ran the government almost like an entrepreneur, very performance driven, and I was privy to that. One of the issues that plagues Haiti today is security. So I want to talk a little bit about what the security context was in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake. And if I remember correctly, you were presiding or managing or governing, a force of 12,000 police officers and 12,000 UN peacekeepers. And during those years, Haiti had the lowest homicide rate in the entire hemisphere. There were 0 kidnappings. Basically, Haiti was one of the safest places across the entire Western Hemisphere. But we understood, and you understood, that the UN mandate and that 12,000 peacekeeping force was finite and had an expiration date. And so you spent quite a bit of political capital to try and argue the case that Haiti needed to remobilize and fund an army that could substitute the security vacuum which would come with the UN peacekeeping force pulling out. There was a lot of pushback on the part of both bilateral partners and multilateral partners on the remobilization and the funding of such security military force. Now, fast forward 13 years, Haiti has the highest homicide rate in the entire hemisphere. Hundreds of thousands of weapons have poured into and smuggled into the country. 14,000 violent gangs have taken over 90% of the metropolitan area, taken hostage 3 million people. Civilian massacres are happening continuously. And the police force, which was at 12,000 under your watch, is now at 6,000. So it shrunk by half. And some say that it's actually shrunk from 9,000 to 6,000 in the last 3 years alone. Some would even speculate that part of that shedding of the police force had to do with the Biden humanitarian program. Now, it took 2 years for the UN Security Council to actually vote a Kenyan multinational security force, which showed very little result. And now there is a new mandate of a gang suppression force and funding and political capital and will on the part of international partners to fund an army in Haiti. So what did international partners fail to understand at the time, which led to this complete dislocation? And what lessons should we learn from these failures, lack of foresight, both for Haiti, but also for the international UN system as a whole?
So Haiti, if you look at historically, we always had an army. Haiti was, always had an army. The army was, basically put back together when after the first American invasion between 1915 and 1934, they left what was an embryo of an army. They called it God d'Haïti, and then it became Force Armée d'Haïti. So all this to tell you that we're in a country that is by nature a turbulent country. So it's important to have strong security forces, strong law and order in the country to keep the security and keep the peace. What happened is throughout, in 1991, when President Aristide was ousted by the army, and there was, successive coups, we had a very stable period throughout Jean-Claude Duvalier's period from 1971 all the way to 1986. There was no gang. There was no Zengler that they call them in Haiti. There was, crime was very low. There was, basically, a strong president, a strong leader. But at the time, there was none of this gang rule that we see today. But in 1991, when Aristide came in, 7 months later, he was ousted in a military coup. Basically, the army was running the country from 1991 to 1994. And 1994 is a very important date because when Aristide came back in October, he essentially demobilized the army. So we went from having 300,000 paramilitaries, 3,000 police, and 7,000 soldiers. So in total, a security corps of 310,000. At the time, the population of Haiti was about 6 million people. To, fast forward 1991 till today, you have a population that doubled from 6 to 12 million, yet the security force that shrunk from 310,000 to today less than 6,000. So you can see the writing on the wall.
Sure.
You can see that this equation doesn't work. And this is lower than even the statistics of any minimal security force, because it tells you must have 2.2 soldiers for every 1,000 inhabitants. And in Haiti today, you have less than 0.5. So it shows you that, we're completely outside the real. Now, this was a decision taken by President Aristide when President Clinton sent the 20,000 soldiers, they completely disbanded the army, and then they left nothing behind. And what happened is they had to bring in the UN forces. The UN forces came with military assets, military equipment, and they took over, the security component of it. Not the civilian, everyday policing, but the military component. And that, more or less kept the peace for the time that they were there. Now, but they spent a lot of money doing it. And there was no post-minister plan. They spent $1 billion. And for the viewers of Pièce de Résistance, $1 billion every year. They did 17 years. $17 billion were spent to arm an international, force from the UN. And then they left after 17 years. They didn't leave anything behind. Even the barracks were prefab. So they also left with the barracks, the cars that they had, the equipment, they left nothing behind. So when they left, the military component was gone, and then there was absolutely no military. They didn't train a Haitian military to take over. So there was a complete vacuum of security forces. And then 3 years, and it took the gangs, it didn't take the gangs 5 years to show their face and start, and now this coupled with Asian politicians that wanted to use the gangs in their advantage. They used the gangs to disrupt President Jovenel Moïse's government. They used the gangs to, basically handicap him, hamstring him, and even topple him. And at the end of the day, Jovenel was out, and then the gangs themselves took over. And that's what we're living today. We're living in a gang rule. And it's totally unacceptable in any society, any country, where we have over 90% of Taikusen of the capital that's occupied by gangs. And, you have several of the large provinces occupied by gangs. We're the only country in the world where this is true today. And how many attacks have there been against the gangs? How many, operations have they get, for the past 4 years? Recently they've started. But, the gangs were just having it, fairly easy.
You bring up President Jovenel Moïse. It's been almost 5 years since President Moïse was brutally assassinated in his home. The country has since completely dislocated, as you said, and entered the worst period in its contemporary history. You, more than anyone at the time, have called for an independent investigation into this crime. So do you think we'll ever know the real story behind the assassination? And can the country really move forward and move on, overcome this dark chapter without some sort of closure?
Well, the closure I call for it is going to come from an international tribunal, neutral tribunal, to take this case like they did with Rafik Hariri in Lebanon when he was assassinated with a bomb. And this has to happen sooner rather than later to bring, closure. Because what happened with President Jovenel was that he was fighting the great battle against oligarchs, in special interest, people with a very large amount of contracts. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars were at play. And Jovenel, he probably did not understand that he was opening so many fronts against so many powerful people, both local and international, that he created a critical mass of people that tried everything to oust him. First of all, they started a character assassination campaign on him. Even before he was elected, they said that he was doing money laundering. That was before he was elected. When he got elected, they started, to say that he was a dictator, that he was, all types of ills in the world, that he was a bad leader, that he was ugly. Some people said, some of his critics said that he was ugly. They never allowed President Jovenel, because of his upbringing, because they considered that he was, from far off into Haiti, from the peasantry. They never accepted him as Haiti's leader. And he paid a heavy price. Myself, when Jovenel was assassinated, and when I saw the injustice that was carried and nothing was happening, I decided to use my platform to go internationally and start a campaign and I even started a hashtag Justice for Jovenel to identify those responsible, the culprits, the people that were behind this, people that I felt that that story needed to be told, that something needed to happen, and that it needed a voice. So, I went on an international media tour. I did over 50 interviews, with all types of media to call for international tribunal and an investigation. And I paid a very heavy price for that myself. I paid an extremely heavy price for having done so. I lost a lot of friends. The government at the time, which was the Ariel Henry, de facto government, or that wasn't an elected government, they were holding power supposedly to organize elections, and they stayed 3 years and never organized not anything. There was nothing organized except just try to stay in power. And that government, because I was, on all the media and I was essentially the voice asking for justice, they felt threatened because, in the investigation, there was a link between the phone call from one of the assassins of Jovenel calling from Jovenel's house to this Ariel Henry, the former prime minister. So when I was asking for justice, he felt threatened. He felt that this was coming towards him. So he needed a way to get rid of those voices and to silence those voices. And he so I paid a heavy price for having started the campaign on Justice for Jovenel.
Yeah, we'll talk about this price that you paid, because in 2022, you were amongst a number of political actors who both Canada and then the State Department decided to impose visa restriction on grounds that you have always vehemently refuted and contested. So what did these partner countries, and namely what did the State Department get wrong in pulling your visa, and what do you think motivated that measure, and where are you at today with that situation?
So during the campaign, the Jovenel campaign, I got several signs that to shut up, to stop talking, because I was bothering people and I was bothering a lot of important people. So
were those from within Haiti or
both? So when that happened, I decided to keep going because I felt that it was a noble cause that I was fighting. And as this continued, keep in mind that, when Anthony Blinken pulled my visa, he basically was referring to 10 years earlier, supposedly for corruption-related charges. Now, keep in mind that I'm the only Haitian prime minister who has I went through 4 audits that were clean for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Planning, Prime Minister's office. They did 2 audits in the Prime Minister's office. And, the program that he was referring to was not a U.S. program. It was not a U.S. not USAID program that I would mismanage. He accused me of mismanaging the funds from the Venezuela Development Fund towards Haiti,
for which you also got a release of good audit
from the Venezuelan government itself. Because the Venezuelan government in 2015, when I was out of power, they conducted an in-depth, enhanced audit, which lasted over 6 months, and they made the result public. They publicly, through their ambassador, they publicly, read out the results of what it was, and they said that they were satisfied, and there is, many newspaper article referring to that they were satisfied with the management of the fund. So, fast forward 10 years after, out of left field, I get hit with, I get my visa pulled because supposedly I mismanaged the funds of Venezuela. Venezuela itself said that they were satisfied with the funding. So, they had to find a justification. They had to find an excuse. But all of this was tied to trying to help the fledgling prime minister, which was Mr. Henry at the time. It was all about shoring him up. He was very much supported by Anthony Blinken at the time and Brian Nichols. They were adamant at keeping him in power. For what reason, nobody knows. And then they decided to attack not only me, but a series of people. But I will only talk about my case today because, I think it's a great injustice. And trying to use, fake news, false information, disinformation. Because I lived in the States, during the COVID years. I was there for 3 years. And the way it happened, I haven't spoken about it too much. I was living for 3 consecutive years. And then I was invited to a conference to speak in a very large conference in Egypt. And I left, it was on the Thursday. I landed there on the Friday. And then as I land, I get a call from my office saying, do you want to make a statement for the Miami Herald, for Reuters, etc.? I'm like, what? For what? And they tell me that I learned that in the news that Anthony Blinken at the time, he pulled my visa. I cannot return in the United States where my kids are living, where I went to school. I went to Barry University. I went to St. Thomas University for an MBA. I have all my family living there and, overnight. So it was a way to punish me. For what reason and for what was the result of that? Did that make things better? Did that improve the situation?
Because there are no OFAC sanctions against you. No, there is no outferences or no direct condemnation. It was really just a visa restriction.
It's called the 7031C. So it's a visa measure. And actually it's a measure that only restricts your visa, not being able to return to the United States. And it can only be put when you're outside of the United States as well. So basically I was there for 3 years, operating, normally without any issues. And then, having, I have companies there. I have, I had my family there and everything. So when they did it in a way to, and when I found out what was going on, they told me that they wanted to do, the people that I asked to look into it, they did. And then the feedback to them was that they were doing a political favor to the de facto government at the time that they were supporting 100%. So they were doing a political favor to, I guess, to rid some voices that was a nuisance to them.
Politically motivated.
100%.
Where are you at with this right now?
So we, in the case of Canada, because it was a joint, remember Anthony Blinken went to see Mélanie Joly in Canada,
the Foreign Relations Minister.
The Foreign Relations Minister asked her to start, with, and then this was all done when Mr. Henry wrote a letter in late 2022 asking for international community's involvement into solving the problem of Haiti. So, as a testament of of failing to help Haiti, they felt that they needed to do something. So in the case of Justin Trudeau, he was making, headlines saying that he's going to help Haiti. He started saying that he's going to give $100 million, to help Haiti. Then he said he's going to send a plane above to do recognition for, for the gangs, to help fight the gangs. Then he said he's going to send, boats off the coast of Haiti to help fight the gangs, etc. So, it was one invention after the other. And he felt that, he needed to do something. So he's doing something, he's teaching people that historically fought the gangs, because I fought the gangs. There was no gangs at all when I was there. I had zero tolerance for gangs. Actually, we had 2 gangs. There was one gang that was, very strong, that were kidnapping people. Clifford Brent was the leader of that gang. he was put in jail. It was the first conviction, and he got 18 years in jail. The first time, and somebody was convicted for kidnapping. And then Social La Familia, the gang Galil, which was Haiti's biggest gang, we fought it and we knocked it out. So I was a law and order prime minister. I was not playing with gangs. So for Justin Trudeau to say, and Mélanie Joly to say that, they're pulling my visa because of gang, I mean, this is a complete joke.
I want to go back to the genesis of the creation of Haiti and its kind of ancestral heritage to Africa. In that sense, Haiti is kind of an exception. Some would say even an anomaly in the Western Hemisphere. During your tenure as Prime Minister, you joined, or you had Haiti join the African Union as an observer state. It was kind of like reconnecting with that ancestral heritage. So, in your view, where does, as an Africa expert that you are, and all the years that you dedicated to the African continent, where does Haiti belong most? And, what role should Africa play for and with Haiti? And what best practices have you found in African nations that have worked that could be applied to Haiti's future development model?
So my experience in Africa is a very good one. A lot of Haitians, a lot of people don't understand what Africa is about until you live and you experience Africa. Africa is, first of all, it's composed of 55 countries. Many people don't even understand that. I say that I go to South Africa and somebody asks me, what country in South Africa? So it's to tell you that there is a complete disconnect, a misunderstanding between the continent of Africa and the perception. So I was honored to be the first Prime Minister of Haiti to go. I was the guest of honor of the African Commission. I did a speech in front of all the African presidents at the African Union in Addis Ababa in late 2014, before I was asked to resign. I spoke about the necessity to connect Africa to Haiti, to connect Pétionville to Cotonou, to connect Cap-Haïtien to Cape Town. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to integrate Haiti as a full-fledged member of the African Union. We were an observer. They accepted the observer status. So I was doing a continental-wide campaign to bring Africa as a full-fledged member of the African Union. Why? Because Haiti is Africa in the Caribbean. And it's normal that you partner with 55 countries on the block. That strengthens your voting bloc. That strengthens your area of cooperation. It strengthens your trade. It makes, we become part of a much broader market. And at the same time, politically, it reinforces you, right? And then you can have trade partnerships. You can have public-private partnerships with African companies. So that was the goal. That was the intent. It was to bring Haiti, that was, where we came from in the 1700s. We came from Africa. If you go to Benin today, there's a whole square dedicated to Toussaint Louverture. The culture that we have, the people. When you go to Haiti, you look at the culture. When you look at the tradition, when you look at the country itself, there is very little difference if you like driving in Delma or when you go to Lomé in Togo. It looks very similar, right? So I wanted to look to Africa and come home. Now, fast forward 11 years after, Africa answered the call to help Haiti. It's unfortunate that we did it in that condition, but it's a fact. They answered the call. They sent those Kenyan troops that were, to me, the results were not what was expected. It was, to be honest, it was a failure. Now there is a new. It was a failure from the mandate itself. It was not a failure because of. It was the whole mandate, the whole perception, the whole force itself. For example, they brought in a police force rather than to bring a military force. Why would you bring a police force in an environment where it's ruled by gang war zone? It's a war zone, so you needed a military. That was basic.
And lack of funding also.
Lack of funding, and also diverting funding away from the Haitian police, right? So they diverted funds and resources from the Haitian police to that, to the. But today, there is renewed hope with this gang suppression force. We knock on wood that this is gonna help. Because I'm Haitian, I'm Haitian and I want the country. I want to see the country thrive, not because I want to be president or I have no interest in that. I just want my country, the country that I grew up in, the country that I love, the country of my family. I want to see the country get better. I don't want this to be a pariah in the world like it is today. I mean, you say that you're Haitian anywhere in the world. It's like you show your Haitian passport, you become a pariah in the world. People see you how with zero, they only talk about barbecue. Barbecue becomes now the picture of Haiti. It becomes the face of Haiti. And we have so much to offer.
I want to rebound on a comment that you said. You said you have no intention. Are you saying that you're not ever planning on running for president?
I'm saying Après, deux resistance right here. I have zero.
We have a scoop here, people.
I have zero interest. We have no interest in that.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the state of Haiti's development. There are 250 megawatts installed of energy for 12 million people. The last figures that I found spoke of about 35% of the national electrification rate, up from 27% in the 80s, and the highest kilowatt hour in the entire hemisphere. It's safe to say that Haiti has never really entered into the industrial age. Now, you're a tech-savvy guy. There are 10.5 million cell phones, and about 5 million of those, so about 86 to 90% of the population has a mobile phone. About 5 million of those use internet daily. Since your business was built on digital networks, and in Africa, and especially in regulatory technology solutions for governments, do you think there's a case to be made that we should bypass altogether that failed attempt at industrializing the country and leapfrog Haiti into the digital age, specifically with some of the immediate needs that we have, whether it is in civil registry or upcoming elections or education or public health, right? What do you think can be achieved quickly against the very considerable challenges and bypass altogether this industrial age phase that Haiti never really entered?
Well, technology gives Haiti a chance to thrive. Haiti has over 90% of tele density, so everybody has a phone or two. And the country itself has the opportunity also to show the world what it can do. And to start with, using technology is, to bypass some of the blockages that the gangs are imposing on Haiti, blocking the country, cutting the country into three, we're talking about elections. It's going to be very difficult to carry the elections with the current scenario where the gangs control and they're blocking, most of the main roads, right? So to bypass that, you can easily do something that many countries in Africa have done and are starting to do in others, is to vote from the phone. Because right now, people are using their phone for just about everything, not only in Haiti, but in the rest of the world. You use your phone for your daily calendar, for your exercise, for your nutrition. You use the phone for receiving money, paying out money. You use the phone for exercise. You use the phone to call important people. You use the phone when you have the most important emergency. You will use the phone to call someone, right? So why can't we also use the phone to create transparency into the voting system and vote via the phone? This way you can have much quicker voter roll. because right now you only have 10% of the population in Haiti that's registered to vote. So, and it's going to be very difficult with the situation with how the gangs are controlling the different areas. But it can go very fast if you do a phone campaign and everybody registers on their phone, and then you have an app to vote in, or those that don't have app, you have specific guidelines on how to vote a candidate. And then you can test it in, parliamentary campaigns, to start with. So you have you have also those that are outside of Haiti, then can vote if you don't have to travel to Haiti, and it's secured, it's transparent, it's safe, and it's measurable. Because right now, even though, you have an election, you're going to have a president or senator or deputy, you don't know if the votes are real people behind it. So because of the identity issues that, you have all types of issues. So using technology to leapfrog and show the world that, look, this actually happened in Haiti can be a very good example for the world. Using also Haiti, to develop our tourism sector, right? To showcase what Haiti has to offer using technology, for that. There is hundreds of examples that I could give you, but first it starts with security, because if you cannot be safe to walk on the street, to go from outside your house to your neighbor, if you're scared that you're going to be killed or kidnapped, then nothing can happen. So this is why the security aspect of it, there should be zero tolerance on gangs. There should be zero tolerance on the mafia networks that are controlling and that are benefiting from this whole gang scenario, and to give the country a chance to move forward. Because we showed, look, I was there 2.5 years. 2.5 years, we showed that we could restore security. We were the second safest country in the Americas, in just 2.5 years. 2.5 years, we started rebuilding the country from ashes. We removed almost everybody that was living in tents, displaced people. We did that. So if you have it, and there is a will, there is a way. And if you want to get things done, then you need to have the political will to make it happen.
The last 18 months, we had a bicephal form of governance in Haiti with a prime minister and a cabinet and what we call a CPT, or Transitional Presidential Council, comprised of 9 members, all from different political factions. We are now back to a single center of gravity and a prime minister who has the full mandate, although not an open-ended one, really, limited in time, with 2 clear objectives. One is restoring security, recovering the metropolitan area, control from the gangs. And 2 is taking the country back on the path to democratic governance by conducting elections that are both widely adhered to and with as high as possible participation and turnout, but also that are credible and legitimate. You talk about digital technologies being able to overcome some of the historical problems in conducting elections in Haiti. One is very low turnout. The other one is fraud. Are there technologies or best cases today that are used in deploying these technologies that are fully blockchain and fully bulletproof, that you can audit without being tempered, that could address both low turnout in case security is not fully restored and people can go to the booth, but also can be credible in terms of, eliminating the fraud element that has been plaguing past elections?
Well, there is, platforms to put in place on the blockchain to have full transparency and traceability of the vote. Where did the vote take place, to match that with the identity of the person? This is fairly basic. It's like making a banking transaction. They have to make sure that the funds are in your account, that you're the real person because you can have a password and username to get into to your account and make a transaction. It's the same for a vote, and it's not complicated. So that's actually also, we're talking about voter turnout. People can stay in their house. They don't have to risk their lives and risk being, shut out, being assassinated because you're going to exercise your right, in democracy to vote a leader of your choice. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it from anywhere. That's the advantage of it. So long as you're registered, and also the campaign of registry, you can use social media, to do a strong campaign, and then people can register to vote. So it's all matching the identities with the platform and also having an easy way to do it. Now, what do we have to lose? We've had elections with extremely low turnout, lots of fraud. We've had, basically, what do we have to lose exactly to change the system of what we've been doing to make sure that we have transparent system and we have, we have leaders that are really, truly elected and voted by the people. But what's going on in Haiti now is, if you remember, President Jovenel Moïse, he was about to organize a referendum in June of 2021, in May of 2021, to enhance the Constitution. That's been the source of all the plagues that we've had since 1987. He was denied that. And then he was organizing election in August of 2021. Yeah, he was assassinated in July. Right? So since then, they said that, the same political leaders that, he probably would not win an election, in a free and fair election, they basically held the power hostage. And every year they want to prolong the transition. So the transition now the transition now went from, the mandate of a president in Haiti is 5 years. Well, 2021, 2010, that's a full presidential term that was lost. And the economy contracted. There is a recession now, for the past 6 years in Haiti. There has been zero public investment. There has been zero even investment in the security forces. There's been, loss of territory. There has been a complete annihilation of commerce because all the commerce side of Port-au-Prince is occupied by gangs. And then you have an atrophy of the only, I would say, business neighborhood in the country, which is Pétionville. Now you have everything going into Pétionville. So this is going to be a hit for the next 20 years to get out of this. But when you go back, if you go back 5 years under Jovenel, Jovenel was about to change the constitution and have an election. But at the time, the couple of oligarchs did everything that they could, put a bunch of money out, created what they call pay lock at the time. What was the purpose of that? To lock a country, preventing the small merchants from selling their goods, preventing the country to move forward, doing it not once but twice, and then, sponsoring a coup against him. For what? Because he was going after the financial interests of these people. So this has to be said loud and clear. He was opening the fronts and he was going after them. Now, where are we? Where are we today? Well, today we are at the very bottom. I mean, we're at rock bottom. I don't think Haiti has ever been so down than we are today. Now, can we go up? Can we do better? Look, it has to be, the people have to decide. It cannot be a group of politicians that probably they themselves got 1% or 2% in the elections that they decide who the next leader is. So to have stability, let the people decide. Organize an election. If you say, oh, we can have the elections because we have gangs and this, there's always an excuse not to have it. Countries that are at war, they hold elections. So why is it that Haiti, who's not at war, I mean, there are war zones, but we're at war because, against who? Against the gangs. We just have to take it to the gangs. We have to start making the gangs being uncomfortable. Make them uncomfortable.
It seems the Prime Minister, Didier Fils-Aimé, who has today the full backing of the international community to conduct this very complex mandate, has his work cut out for himself. But there is, I think, one common denominator with you is you're probably the only two prime ministers in the history of contemporary Haiti that have emerged out of the private sector. And that might mean that, things will be done differently and probably with a focus on performance and result driven. What, if anything, would be your advice to Prime Minister Fils-Aimé as he takes on this kind of dual mandate of, security gains, recovering the metropolitan area, and conducting, putting the country back on a path to democratic governance by way of credible, legitimate elections within the time period that he's given?
Or it is to attack. Keep the gangs uncomfortable. Attack them every single day of the week. Use every resource that he has to get rid of those elements. And also, it's not only the gang holding the guns, but also, the whole apparatus, because they're supported. If you look at, there's a bunch of, police officers also involved in that. So you really have to clean house. Now, Didier Fils-Aimé is from the private sector, as you well said. He has a lot to lose because he's a very successful entrepreneur. He was also in technology. He had an internet company that he sold. So he was a very successful entrepreneur. So he has a lot at stake in this whole, in the country's battle to get rid of, to restore security. So it's taking it to the gate. That's one. And then second of all, don't make the same mistakes. Look at what happened in the recent past. Don't make the same mistakes. He has milestones. The milestones are clear. Having elections is one. Getting rid of the gangs is two. Those are his two milestones. Once he meets those two milestones, he will keep the support of the international community, especially the United States. That's heavily supporting him, and he will succeed in the mission. I feel that he has the right fiber, to do well. But he needs to stay focused. He needs to ensure that those milestones are worked on every day in order to get to the goal, which is turning over the power to an elected president when the time comes. If you look at what happened with the 9-member CBT, it was a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, you take 9 different political groupings that have interest into staying in power, prolonging their privileges, and then you put them together in one council, and then the first thing they do, they start fighting each other. And then they put a rotating presidency, so every 6 months, somebody's president. They have all types of benefits, all types of privileges, all types of funds coming into them. So they completely lost sight of what their mission was, which is organize elections and fight the gangs. Rather, they supported the infrastructure, the structure that was there, just to make sure that they could stay longer. And that's what should be avoided this time. It's not a question of staying longer. It's a question of, putting the gangs on defense, attacking them every single day with the resources that are there now. Because right now you have the police force, you have a very capable police chief, you have a very capable prime minister, you have a very capable secretary of state for public safety. You have big, capable, big, competent people to do the job. So now they have to get on with the job, do less politicking and more action. That's one. And then last but not least is to put together, an effort of neutrality to show that this election is the people organizing it. They're not going to try to skew one way or the other to bring trust in them to carry out a vote that's going to be free and fair. Just bring the trust. And in order to do that, the different key ministries in the country, I mean, that's how I would have done it. has to stay neutral, because if you give, for example, one key ministry to a political party who's going to run election, he's going to try to use that ministry to create an unfair advantage when election time comes, whether it's from, money, financing aspect, whether it's from using the ministry, to skew the system, to fraud and things like that. So they need to be very careful about that and stay neutral, talk to everyone, and ensure that we can close the chapter of transition and open a new chapter with elected officials, because we're the only country in the world that since 2016 there has not been one election in the country. There's been 0 elected official since the death of President Jovenel Moïse, and that has to stop.
Last, I want to talk about true constituents. First of all, it always amazes me to see, against very complex circumstances, how Haitians, when they leave their country, whether it be for political or economic circumstances, thrive, and how successful Haitians can be abroad, whether it's in the artistic realm, whether it's in the academic realm, whether it's in the business realm, or in the scientific realm. All you see are examples of driven, honest, performing Haitians abroad. 2 parts to my comment and question. This level of excellence you see abroad, exercised and demonstrated by Haitians across all demographics, age groups, how can it be put to good use for the betterment of the country moving forward? And why is it that this sense of community belonging, level of excellence that you see abroad by the Asian diaspora cannot replicate or does not find the same kind of vibrancy at home?
Well, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is when they leave home and then they go outside, they go for 2 reasons. They go, one, for economic reasons, to have a better life, have a job, and being able to provide for their family. And then the second reason is safety, right? Because in the past years, we've had, the country has been extremely unsafe. But it's shown also in the statistics that when there is safety in the country, they don't live in such huge droves like what we've seen in the recent years. So, and then they go into a country, usually they go to the United States, they go to Chile, they go to Brazil. Those are very organized countries. Those are countries with rules and regulations. So they go into a system that's already molded that they have to follow the rules. Whereas in Haiti, sometimes they feel that, that the rules can be broken because a lot of the rules are broken by the very leadership of the country itself. And there is very little, I would say, rules and regulations to be followed. And there is consequences if you don't follow them outside, and there is no consequences. So it's about accountability as well. So having said that, there is many competent Haitians, whether it's, but, the brain drain that we've seen, that competency left Haiti and is now in Europe, in the big capitals of the world, in the United States, where you have the brain of our country is outside. Because in your country, you don't have some of the basic features that would keep them, which is basic security right now. So everybody wants to leave because nobody can leave their house and go to the neighbors without fearing of being killed. So that has to be fixed. And this is why it says everything. But if you have a safe country, if it boils down to safety and security, if you have a safe country, people will come back because the Haitian that's living abroad wants to go back to their country. They love, every Haitian adores Haiti. They listen to Haitian music. They eat Haitian food whenever they can. They want to eat that Juyi Kole, that Juyi Georgia, wherever they can find it, wherever they look for Haitian restaurants. They love their culture. They're looking for where's the next Karimi or T-Vice. I'm not gonna, T-Vice is my band. So T-Vice, where's the next T-Vice band for them to go? So they're actually attached to their homeland and their country. Now the country needs to give something back, which is security and a basic place where they can, raise their children and have a happy family and provide for the basic needs of the population. Water, shelter. There is, we're lacking that.
I want to send my mad love to Ray and Roberto from T-Vice, who continue to inspire Haitians across the world with their music, and all the other Haitian artists. I want to close on the future and really, if you had one word of wisdom to the youth. I mean, this is a country with 50+% that's under 18 years old. A lot of them haven't been able to go to school, whether it was during the pandemic or since the security dislocation and the threats on their very livelihoods, their very security. So what kind of message of hope can you convey to the youth that might be watching and wondering what outcomes, what future opportunities can they expect against all these very difficult concerns?
Stay educated, get educated, and remain educated. Because education, and especially nowadays where you have, access to, in Haiti right now, people have access to it. Everybody has access to internet with their phones. And everybody can have a YouTube account. Everybody can have a Udemy account. And a lot of courses are free and in their own language. So a lot of people need to stay educated, because that's what's going to give them the possibility to have a job tomorrow. And the job is going to help them to be able to someday have children, take care of their children, and also get a job and that will change their lives. And they're going to be hireable, employable. They can also create their own companies, but it all starts with education, with understanding that education is the key to any person's present and future. And with the internet, there is no excuse. Myself, I try to educate myself every single day. I try to learn something new. There is AI that took over the world. There is ChatGPT. There is Perplexity. There is a Claude. There is Gemini platform. You can educate yourself every day. I'm looking myself right now into an executive education program to improve my AI skills, right? To go from a simple, user to understand and for that to help me in decision making as an entrepreneur, as I'm moving forward with my career. So it's never too late to learn and to educate yourself, especially nowadays. So the message from the youth is, keep educated. Stay with your books. Read a lot. It's important to read a lot. Watch a lot of educational YouTube videos. Try to learn something new every single day. And if you do, you will be leaders and you will be successful.
On this word of hope, I want to thank you, Laurent Lamothe, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck, and hope to see you on the show very soon.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's show. We thank you for joining in. We look forward to a next episode to try to make sense of the world around us. Stay safe, everybody.
Great, let's go.